Welcome to Don't Be Caged by Your Age, John Jay. I'm so happy you're here to share your insights and wisdom to help folks thrive after 65. How you doing?
Good. Very well. It's a very pleasant day.
Oh, good. Well, listener, John Jay Wiley is a retired Baltimore police sergeant, longtime broadcaster, and the creator and host of Law Enforcement Talk Radio, carried by 146 stations, that's AM and FM stations, folks, around the country, where he shines a light on the untold stories of law enforcement, first responders, military veterans, crime victims, and their families. So, John Jay, we age out loud and proud here on the podcast. So please let folks know your age and where you live.
I'll be turning 67 very, very soon. I live in West Palm Beach, Florida. And contrary to what people tell you, it is wonderful down here. It's God's waiting room, but it's a place to be.
There you go. I love it. Looking back, John Jay, what were the key moments or influences in your life and career that set you on the path you're on now, from law enforcement to broadcasting and storytelling? And you had a pretty big shift early on in your career, and I know listeners will love learning about that.
To begin with, I couldn't do what I'm doing now radio-wise when I was in my 20s because I lacked a thing called self-confidence, and I lacked a lot of experience, and I lacked a lot of vision, and I just didn't have a belief in myself. Even though other people did, I didn't. But I do have that today. So I'll just give you the long story short. I was in high school. I thought I wanted to be a Catholic priest, and I decided that vocation was not for me, and police work was shortly after that. And I went to college. I majored in drinking, had a minor in sociology. I did a 4.0 on my major and a DNF on my minor. I was out in a year.
It
I
was
was
the
a horrible student.
70s. It was the
Yeah, it was
70s.
a different era. I went to Old Dominion University. I say that I went there, but I was enrolled there. I don't know that I ever showed up. Very rare. But I thought I was a lousy student. And then it turns out as I got older in life, into my 20s and 30s, that changed. That changed tremendously. And when I found that I was serious about learning something, then I could accomplish that. And for lack of better words, constraints that the society put on me and that I put on myself were long gone. So I went into police work. I did well. I graduated second in my class. I promoted relatively early. I worked in the worst areas of Baltimore, and it was a very, very violent era time frame. I worked when crack cocaine started in Baltimore, and it changed the complexity of the city totally. And I got promoted to sergeant in '87. Before that, I was detailed at DEA for about 2 years, working narcotics, working Jamaican drug gangs, and doing support with other things. And then I got hurt and retired at the age of 33. And you can see my hand. I was in an act of violence while arresting a guy. He tried to shoot me while a service weapon was still in my hand. And fortunately, he lived, I lived. But I thought I sprained my wrist. And the truth is, I had to have 3 surgeries on my hand. I was retired at 33. And it was like, and I was really emotionally and mentally beat up at the time, not just physically. And then what do you do now? What do you do
Right.
now? You reinvent yourself at 33, and that's what I was confronted with.
And sometimes life happens for us.
That's
So
right.
you had your 10 plus years, you had the experience of graduating second in your class, you had that confidence boost, you saw a side of humanity that informed you about the fragility of humanity
Right.
and the things that can happen that can really set people on a different path, and that we're all made up of a different bundle of DNA and influences in our life that give us the ability to cope, not cope, and make different choices. And so that opened your eyes. But then life said, okay, you can't hold a weapon anymore, obviously, and you can no longer be part of the police establishment. Then you had to sit back and do a little rethinking, right? And where you wanted to be, where did you want to live? Like, did you stay in the Baltimore area or did you
No,
head?
I didn't. We were living in Southern Maryland at the time. I was married, and we went through a lot of marital problems, and we wound up getting divorced. And
Yeah.
I'm since remarried in South Florida. A woman I met here, and is phenomenal. We've been married now 25 years. But all of that was essential. I said this crashing and burning was essential for me to grow into who I am today,
Right.
and to realize that uh, the sky's the limit. So I had to get sober at 33.
Yeah.
I've been sober 30 some odd years now. I had to learn
Congratulations.
to rebuild my life. I was devastated with PTSD. I was devastated with physical injuries. I had to learn the basics of sales. And I remember my first part-time job was selling pagers and brick phones and installed phones in cars. And I was amazed that people gave me that shot. And that's a part-time. Then I went to car sales and
Yeah.
did other things. And I did email marketing management, internet sales, all that stuff. And then I began to follow my career choice of radio.
Right. And I think part of that personal hands-on experience, if you're willing to understand that you had PTSD
Hmm.
and more like a complex because it was year after year after year. Some people, bad car accident or sexual assault or something like that's a one-time thing, right? But you, it was every year for many years. So
Yeah.
it sounds to me like you were willing to take the time and understand that about yourself and have compassion for how the brain, the trauma voice speaks to us versus a healthy adult voice. And I love that you had that self-reflection. And then you got through the divorce, you moved down to Florida. What inspired you to start law enforcement talk radio? I mean, that's, a whole nother avenue of bringing a completely different set of skills to the world. And, being willing to learn podcasting, learn how to talk and interview and do all the things. When did that pivot happen?
In 1999, I started the predecessor of podcast and started with audio blogs. And then I did a brokered radio show, which you can do, anybody can do. That means you pay for your time.
Right.
And then you sell your own advertising. I did that for about 2 years for 2 hours on Saturday night. And then I went to night school to learn the ins and out of broadcasting. I've been a full-time FM music jock up until about a year and a half ago. But the main crux of the matter was that in addition to being on air, I was responsible for their social media. Most radio stations have social media, and their biggest
Right.
presence is on Facebook and not Instagram.
Right.
Um, and I had to focus on that as well. So I began learning the ins and outs of that probably almost 20 years ago. But the main thing was this, Andy, was I got to the point where I realized that New York, San Francisco, and by the way, a lot of the people you hear on the radio stations now are not even in your state.
Oh
They're
gosh,
they're
yeah.
somewhere
Right.
else. They're voice tracking, and that's an opportunity for people like you and me. But the morning show in Miami, New York, they weren't calling me. They weren't coming to my door. And if I wanted to make some serious money, I had to do my own thing. And it all started with podcasting. And I partnered with a gentleman named Robert Greenberg. In 2017, I took everything I learned from radio, everything people taught me about radio, and applied that to the law enforcement talk radio show podcast. And a radio station upstate New York heard it on Facebook because I was posting my content on his page and reached
Mm-hmm.
out to the rated version, and we did. And I self-syndicated 13 stations. Now we're on our second syndicator, Talk Media Network, and the growth has been phenomenal. So we conservatively estimate the audience at 2 to 4 million per week listening to the radio show.
Oh my gosh, John Jay. Let me fan myself. A lot of folks who are podcasters are happy if they get 50 listens a week. That is wonderful. And talk a little bit about the gap you saw and how law enforcement and first responder stories were being told versus how you tell the stories. Talk a little bit about the law enforcement talk radio.
I've known this for a long time. As an industry, we have relied on the news media to tell our stories, and they've been
Mm.
so bad, so
So
bad.
bad.
And now it's so politically biased, it's not even remotely close to truth. But what I really wanted at first was, before expanding into radio, was just a podcast. I wanted couples in particular, law enforcement officers, their spouses, to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to trauma and other things. And I really wanted to provide a platform for them to tell their stories. I wanted to get away from, we got a lot of experts on the show, but I wanted to get away from experts telling people what they should do. And I wanted people to tell them what they did. to get the life they have today. So we started providing a platform. And the moment we picked up the radio, we had expanded a little bit. I jokingly say, um, where we are in Interstate 95 is not far from me. Um, in parts of Miami, it's 6 lanes, 7 lanes each direction, north and south. Where I am, it's 4 lanes each direction, north and south. It's about an hour north, it's 2 lanes directions each, but it heads in the same general direction. So I had expanded, and I started including trauma from military, other first responders, crime victims, and I really wanted them to talk not so much about the specifics, but what happened, how it impacted them, and most importantly, what they did to build the life they have today. And that seems to be the secret sauce. That's about 75% of my guests.
Yeah, and I imagine you know the stats better than I do, of course, but I imagine it's wonderful for the extended family, folks of loved ones who are out there as first responders, as well as those who are finally being seen and heard and hearing stories that they can relate to and go, yes. And then, as you said, you get to see what someone has gone through similar trauma, but here they are today. And especially in the long-term relationships, right?
Yeah.
You're helping those first responders and their loved ones, and those of us who are curious to understand how you can navigate that world and see how to get through the other side, to the other side of the trauma and the relationships and just the high level of exposure to a really tough side of humanity.
Well, a lot of life is not what we want. Uh, I certainly didn't plan this course of action, but this is the hand I was dealt, and I don't mean that jokingly. I just that's the hand I was dealt. Now, how do you only get so many pulls of that hand? If you don't like it, you've got to play with your dealt. So many people have it harder. So many people have gone through really tough things.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my mother always says to me, she's still with us, is that we all have our crosses to bear. And uh, if I can take something from what someone else went through and apply some of that to my life, then I
Right.
can reap the rewards. And it's really about what they did. And I really wanted to provide a platform because we seem to be missing that platform for people to tell their stories. And we're inundated with so-called, and I don't mean this as a negative way, we're inundated with experts selling and pitching constantly, and we're not hearing that there is a great life afterwards in spite of the hand you're dealt. And that's the platform I want to provide to people.
I love that. I'm all about optimism, John Jay. Listener, we're chatting with John Jay Wiley. You can learn more about how he's thriving after 65 and his powerful work and empowering work in the world by visiting his website, letradio.com, and following the Law Enforcement Talk Radio on Facebook. And yeah, he's also on Instagram at LET Radio Show Podcast. I'll have all the links in the show notes. What I love, and this is one of the privileges of aging, John Jay, is that we can look back and go, oh my gosh, look at all these events that led me to where I am today. Look how I chose to take the cards I got dealt. I mean, the human journey is filled with a lot of different traumas. And in your case, it began with, law enforcement, then sales, then radio, and then look where it landed you in doing something that is so rewarding and so helpful to many people all over that you will never know about or never see or never touch, but you know that ripple effect is happening. How has this work affected you personally, and what keeps you lit up and passionate about this mission today?
It's twofold. So a lot of it's my own story, my own journey, what I've been through. And this is a way of putting some purpose to the pain that I went through. And I don't want people to think that it was all easy. It wasn't. I spent many years separated from my daughters. The divorce was never anything that I wanted, but that was the reality of what happened. We have a great life now, great relationship now, but I got to work on this all the time. All the time. There might be some cures in the future, but for right now, for me, I don't. So, and it's not all bad. There's a lot of good with it as well. So that keeps me fired. My passion is the pain I've been through, putting a purpose to that pain, and then helping other people in their journey. And some can accomplish great things. phenomenal things. Some not so much, but if you are one step out of the fire, it's a really good thing. It really is. 2 steps is even better. 3 steps is much better. So it's about making that journey and getting out of the fire.
Also, talking about the benefits of mental health. You don't get cured just because you have a realization about trauma or something. Oh, I feel good in this moment. Trauma keeps raising its ugly head in different ways. And sometimes it just takes you to a deeper level of your understanding of your life, but it doesn't completely disappear. And so a lot of times there's this indoctrinated belief that as you get older, you don't need mental health. You don't need help with some of the stuff that you've gone through. And I always think, what do you mean? Now that our long-term memory is even greater, I think we need it more than ever in
Yeah.
order to stay resilient, in order to take advantage of these years ahead of us. What are your thoughts about staying tuned in to your own pathway to wellness, that whether it's physical or mental?
Twofold. I had to recognize that mental health stems from my brain, and that's
Yeah.
another organ in the body. Just like your heart. When you have heart disease, you have heart problems, you can expect physical side effects. The same thing. And we got to learn, I had to learn to treat my brain like an organ, like it is, because if I start thinking things that are problematic, I'm going to act a certain way. My
Right.
thoughts dictate my actions. My actions dictate my legacy. So there's certain things I do. I pray daily. I meditate daily. I'm not one of these people. I'm just do my best to keep my mind clear. I avoid a lot of things that I know are problematic. I don't watch a lot of body cam videos. I don't watch certain horror movies. I don't watch slasher flicks. The news, I really am how much news I get. I eat around the same time every day because that really plays a role with my mood.
In
I
what
go
way,
to
John
sleep around
Jay?
the same time every day. And those things I had to be taught.
In what way does, because I'm fascinated by that, in what way does eating at a certain time every day help you with regime and consistency?
Well, number one, it's a illusion. A lot of people don't like, psychiatrists don't like the word control. So it gives me control over aspects of my life where I can feel like part of my life is out of it. But what's the Snickers commercial? You're not yourself when you're hangry. I'd admit when I'm hungry, I get moody. And when I get moody, for example, my wife, God bless her, I will snap at her and she didn't deserve it. She didn't do anything to deserve it. And then I feel bad about that. And I got to make amends and correct my behavior. So if I eat a yogurt and a protein bar in the morning after walking my dog, I'm fine. Same thing around noon, same thing around 6 p.m. and go to bed around 10:30 every night and wake up at 6 a.m. every morning, whether I feel like it or not.
Yeah. Listener, in case you had a situation, or if you're thinking about what John Jay is saying about having that routine in place and how it really helps not only have a sense of control in your life, but it sets the rhythm so that you can have the time periods in between to be and do who you ever want to be and do. So I just love that, John. Now, is almost 67 years old. What have you seen around ageism over the last 10 years? Because ageism kicks in, unbiased, unconscious, whatever. It kicks in the 50s, and we start seeing it in how people are not promoted anymore at work. We're seeing it in all different ways in society. Women, let's not even get started. We get slammed with the anti-aging stories. Did you have any assumptions? Did you have any limiting beliefs, or have you seen others with limiting beliefs about what they could be doing? Because what you're doing at almost 67 is wonderful and represents how we can continue to thrive after 65 so brilliantly. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I've never really encountered ageism. So, and part of me almost thinks like I have to accept the fact that exists. And I don't. If I don't accept it, you can have a problem with me all day long. I tell people this: I'm responsible for what I do and say. I'm not responsible for how you take it. I'm not
Right.
responsible for what you read into it. So, in my experience, I have never not been hired by a radio station because of my age. As a matter of fact,
Wonderful.
that went in my favor because I already had health insurance. I had pay. I had a police pension. I didn't need a lot of things that a lot of people do. So, and I also had this thing called experience, a wealth of experience that I could bring to the table where someone fresh out of college couldn't. But I think a lot of that had to do with how I presented myself, Ande. And the one thing I hear a lot of people in our age group say is, well, the tech thing has just passed me by. I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. And I'm the first one to tell you, I don't understand it, but I don't need to understand it to use it.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I turn on television every night with my wife, and I, to this day, can't tell you how television works. I don't know how you can record a movie in 1947, store it on some sort of server somewhere, and have it shipped down through satellite to whatever. And there's on my TV, and I'm watching it, and I'm like watching something in 1947. I don't have to understand it to use it. Radio, I don't understand how that works. For example, flying in a jet airplane, I do not understand how avionics works. I don't understand thrust. I don't understand how something that big, that heavy can fly 5 miles in the air, 500 miles an hour.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I don't even know who the pilot is. And yet I go. So I don't need to understand everything implicitly to use it. That was the main thing I learned. So I tell people now, and I'm in a situation where I work from home. I'm by myself. I'm in my home office right now. I'll go in the radio studio tomorrow. And I don't say this is negative. I don't need your approval to make me feel good about myself. As a matter of fact,
Beautiful.
I've got my police pension. I've got my Social Security. Everything of that is a gravy on the biscuit. So there's tools I use that I don't understand. I don't know how they work, but I know they work well, and I get paid every month for doing that. And that's the thing I think most of us need to get at is stop this self-limiting behavior. Just because someone else thinks that doesn't mean we have to agree with them. And just move on with your life. If you don't like where you're at,
Absolutely.
move on with it.
My husband turned 74 yesterday. He's working for a young company,
Congratulations.
tech company. He is, he's on payroll. We're getting automatic deposit. And by the way, folks, in case you're wondering, they take FICA out even if you've been collecting Social
Yeah.
Security for 3 or 4 years. It still comes out. But I also, in episode 69, folks, did a short soliloquy of my own talking about how boomers are really tech legends, not tech challenged. Because over the last 40 years, we have been faced from going from rotary phones to smartphones, from typewriters that you had to clackety clack on to these fancy towered and PCs that we're using today. We have transitioned so much, and we can do hard things. We can learn these things. And I think your perspective, John Jay, is like, you don't have to know why it works.
Right.
You just know how to use it. That's all. And to
Right.
tell your brain you can't use it is silly, because you can. You've been evolving all these years. Everybody remembers when the copy machine came out, when we left the mimeograph behind and carbon between our sheets of paper to make a copy. And all of a sudden we were having paper jams. So we can do this, and we can do the tech. So I'm so happy you brought that up, because I'm a huge fan of podcasting for older adults, because it's a great way to stay connected. You can have great conversations, and it's very low overhead to do.
Right.
And who knows, you might get picked up and syndicated like John Jay Wiley here.
The thing is, if you just don't know who's listening to you,
Right.
as a podcaster, someone that can change your entire life can hear what you have to say. So one of the things that my mother told me when I was a little boy, this stuck with me, and you think be better at it by now, but she'd say things, "You're not leaving the house dressed like that, are you?" And she says, "It's never too late to put out a good first impression, because you don't know who you're dealing with."
Right.
But and that really applies to us as individuals. You don't know what you're capable of, so stop telling yourself you can't, and start doing it and learning. Because we've already been through, you mentioned it. I remember you didn't call the house at dinner time. My mother would answer the phone. We had one phone in the house. We didn't have TVs in every bedroom. We had a transistor radio you had to build. And we listened to faraway stations. There was so much is different nowadays, but we accomplished things as baby boomers that people would say are impossible now. Now we have all the tools that are available at our
Yeah.
disposal. And I always say this, right now there's 10-year-olds in Armenia that don't even speak English, are kicking you know what when it
Right.
comes to podcasting,
Right.
because they're using all the tools available to them and they don't
That's
care.
right.
They don't know now.
I don't know, but if you tried to show them how to do an answering machine from back in the 80s or
Forget
how
it.
to do a cassette player, I mean, going from
How
vinyl to
about the
streaming,
VCR blinking 12? I still have black tape over that thing.
I tell you, what we've learned, we're legends, John
Yeah.
Jay. And so if our brains can make those transitions, you can do whatever you need to today. I love this. So when you think about your legacy, John Jay, what do you hope people remember about you and your work?
Hmm. The main thing I want people to take away from this is, I'm going to use your name of your show. Don't let your age be your cage. Don't define yourself. Don't constrain yourself. There's other people doing it, and you got to ask yourself this question: if not you, then who? Because someone's going to. And if not now, then when? So if you are retired, like I am, this is the perfect time to embrace things. And you don't need to understand how stuff works. I'll give you Facebook, for example. I can't tell you how that works, but I know that I make $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 every month from that. That's just direct income from them. And there are people making $60,000 a month off meta content monetization. So the question is, if not you, then who?
Right. And why not? And yeah, I'm always saying, don't be afraid to be the oldest person in the room. Get out there, have some relationships with folks that are younger than you, and you'll be teaching them. And something you said earlier too about you don't know who's listening. You definitely don't know who's listening, whose words of advice, like you've just been giving us on this episode, John Jay, who you will help. That ripple effect. And we have the wisdom. Today, in the last 10 or 15 years, the younger generation is like, oh my God, this is so intense. We remember the 70s. We remember high inflation where you paid 18% on your mortgage if you
Right.
had a mortgage. And gas went from 29 cents all of a sudden up to $2. And we had a Black Mondays and we had all the ups and downs and we got through it. So our experience and wisdom, which is what John Jay brings to as well to his show, Law Enforcement Talk Radio Show, it's that wisdom that only lived experiences can bring, only having survived and thrived and gotten through the other side can bring. So your voice is so important out there, listener, and we really want you to keep bringing your glow to the world. Looking ahead, John Jay, any new exciting things on the horizon? Any dreams or risks you haven't taken that you're thinking, oh boy, I'd like to get into that next?
I tend to, at this age of my life, to dip my toe in the water first. I don't dive in the deep end and start swimming like a lunatic. The main thing I want people to take away from it is that the I can mentality.
Yeah.
And that you don't need someone else. This is a conversation I had with someone just recently, and I've had multiple times. You don't need the big time people to make you big time. You got all the tools at your disposal. You got the internet. We talk about podcasting. You know, right now, the average cost, I think it is, to buy a radio station in the United States at a small market is $600,000 to $750,000. Most of us can't afford that. I can't afford that.
Yeah.
To meet the threshold of being a paid employee is a pretty steep climb. But you have the ability with the internet and podcasting to reach an audience worldwide, whenever they want, from wherever they want. And one of my recent biggest fans, she used to write me all the time, was a 16-year-old with autism in Norway. She never missed an episode of my show. And she always emailed me. So if I can do this, you can too. The last thing is, what am I looking forward to doing more of is generating sales where I do advertising for fixed products, ebooks, things of that nature.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, because the house we want to buy costs money.
That's right.
The vacation we want to take costs money. You can't go to Ireland on good feelings. You got to go to Ireland on, it takes money. So if I want things in life, I got to make it happen. And the moment, remember, Ande, when you were 15, 14, whatever, and you're getting your first job,
Yes, I sure do.
job, and the anxiety you have about, will they hire me? My first job was working at a mom and pop grocery store, making sausage at 14, delivering groceries. And I was thrilled to get that job. I look at my grandparents. They immigrated from Ireland when they were 16. They just turned 16 like two weeks before, with the money in your pocket, a suitcase of clothes, and no guarantees. They went to a different country to start a new life. Me, I won't go on vacation unless I know where I'm staying. So let's take some chances and make stuff happen. So the ebooks, advertising, that's something I'm looking forward to doing more of. I've been experimenting with traffic leaders, but that's a great way of getting stuff out there and
Absolutely.
getting revenue for yourself.
And listener, please remember, you can fuel your passion, your purpose, and your pocketbook. Okay, look what John's doing. He's got another thing on the horizon he's going to up his game on. You can have dreams, not just to pay off a mortgage or find a way to age out where you live. You can actually take it to another level while you're still breathing.
Right.
Your brain loves it when you take on new things. It creates more space to learn, and it creates a sharper memory, and it keeps you from having any type of mental decline, that doing new things, trying new things. So, John Jay, loved every minute chatting with you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, stories, and perspective with us that I can do it. Say those words out loud, folks. You've shown us resilience, purpose, and passion don't have an expiration date. I mean, come on. And I know listeners are going to carry your insights forward as they continue to find their pathways for thriving after 65. Listener, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about today's episode? Are you going to go follow John Jay everywhere he glows? Come share your insights with me on LinkedIn or Instagram. Just search for Don't Be Caged by Your Age, or tap the link in the show notes. And of course, you can always leave a message on the website, and you can leave a voice message on the website. You just have to tap that little mic. And I love hearing voices, and I'll respond as well. Yay. Any last thoughts, John Jay, before we wrap up?
Well, what Ande didn't know was she's been auditioning for this entire interview for a nationally syndicated radio show. And so far, with your permission, I will send your information to my syndicator. And by the way, I want people to realize a lot of what you hear in the radio now are podcasters. And they are getting in front of a bigger audience, an audience that can be literally 4 million people. And imagine what you can do. If I filled Raymond James Stadium with 4 million people, and they're interested in your story, your topic, and I hand you the microphone and megaphone, how many can you convert into customers? That's the key question. So Ande didn't know that she was auditioning as well. And we all are. And here's the last thing I'll say. I do not and will not answer yes to your preconceived stereotypes about me. Age, occupation, race, whatever it is, I'm not doing it. You can judge me by my actions or not. And if you don't, that's cool too.
Oh my gosh, John Jay, I have goosebumps. And how exciting, listener, that I've been auditioning this whole time. Woohoo! I'll let you know how we go. At the end of the day, though, we need to remember life is just too darn wonderful. No matter what's happened to you, it really is a gift and a privilege to be aging like this. So don't be caged by your age. Stay curious, stay courageous, and always stay Andelicious. Big waves from Boston, everyone. And thanks again, John Jay Wiley.
My pleasure.
Woohoo! Listeners, I'm so grateful you carved out time to tune in and grab the gems from this delicious conversation. Be sure to hop on over to Don't Be Caged by Your Age on LinkedIn or Instagram to share your thoughts about ageism and unretirement. Because in this space, your age doesn't define you, it refines you. If you are inspired by a story you hear, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast. To receive an alert whenever a new show is posted, please join the Don't Be Caged by Your Age newsletter. Every month, you'll receive links to the podcast and helpful resources for creating possibilities for your unretirement days. Thank you for tuning in. I am so excited to hear how you found ways to thrive after 65. Waving from Boston, cheers.